Good morning. This is Scarlett Pimpernella. I just wanted to get on quickly and talk about an article that appeared in American Thinker today. It's called Help is on the Way for Understanding Sidney Powell's Georgia Complaint. It's by Andrea Widburg again. She also wrote the article that I talked about yesterday. She just in this article talks about how there's some problems with the narrative in the complaint because it's not accessible, mainly because of its length and the complexity of the issues, and then the number of issues that are being addressed in the complaint. One of the things she says here, she says, the problem with both lawsuits is that they're extremely long and assert dozens of facts pointing to 3 different issues. She's talking about a companion lawsuit in Michigan. But traditional fraud, cemetery votes, fake ballots, computer fraud, the Dominion voting systems, and data manipulation, and executive department overreach that illegally changed voting rules in both states. For each of these categories, the evidence and the applicable law are different. So Doug Ross, an independent journalist, has apparently come up with an infographic. And today I thought we'd take a look at that infographic because it makes the complaint clearer. So here it is. It's called A Summary of 2020 Election Rigging Claims, and it's focused on Georgia specifically. Overview of voter fraud allegations, illegal procedures, no chain of custody for machines and large bundles of ballots, poll watchers removed and threatened, unprecedented voting, quote unquote, pauses, which we saw in many states, not just in Georgia. Insecure voting machines, design permits operators to easily move votes between candidates, audit logs incomplete and insecure, links to foreign governments. And illegal ballots, no signature verification, no barcoding or ballot verification, statistically implausible dumps of votes late in the counting process, 95% plus for Biden. And that was something we saw in the Pennsylvania hearings where one witness testified that he had seen over 570,000 votes for Biden and just over 30,000 votes for Trump in a 90-minute period. So that is fishy. Broken chain of custody for voting machines and bundles of ballots. This is an illegal procedure. Quote, we typically receive the machines, the ballot marking devices on the Friday before the election with a chain of custody letter to be signed on Sunday, indicating that we had received the machines and the counts on the machines when received and that the machines had been sealed. In this case, we were asked to sign the chain of custody letter on Sunday, even though the machines were not delivered until 2 a.m. in the morning on election day. This is unacceptable, and voting machines should not be out of custody prior to an election day. So what that indicates is that they were probably, of course, tampered with, but also that the early voting that had been done prior to election day, they were still fooling with the results of the early voting, or else why would it take them so long to get those machines in? Illegal procedures. Democrat majority counties illegally prevented Republican poll watchers from monitoring vote counting activities. Democrat majority counties provided political parties and candidates, including the Trump campaign, no meaningful access or actual opportunity to review and assess the validity of mail-in ballots during the pre-canvassing meetings. While in the audit or recount, they witnessed Trump votes being put into Biden piles. Witnesses testify, quote, there was no meaningful way to review or audit any activity, and quote, there was no way to tell if any counting was accurate or if the activity was proper. This was something that people talked about it happening, or witnesses testified happened in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh as well. Keeping poll watchers, Republican poll watchers out so that they could do what they wanted with the ballots. But also the interesting thing here is that this happened also prior to Election Day in pre-canvassing meetings. They were not allowed meaningful access to review and assess the validity of the mail-in ballots. Illegal procedures, large batches of pristine identical ballots, 98% for Biden. A large number of ballots were identical and likely fraudulent. These different ballots included a slight depressed pre-fold so they could be easily folded and unfolded for use in the scanning machines. There were no markings on the ballots to show where they had come from or where they had been processed. These stood out. In my 20 years of experience of handling ballots, I observed that the markings for the candidate on these ballots were unusually uniform, perhaps even with a ballot marking device. By my estimate, in observing these ballots, approximately 98% constituted votes for Biden. I only observed 2 of these ballots as votes for Trump. So here we go in the second category, insecure voting machines. 96,600 mail-in ballots were illegally counted as they were not cast by legal voters. Here's something on the right-hand side. Expert Navid Keshavarez Nia states that Dominion software is vulnerable to data manipulation by unauthorized means and permitted election data to be altered in all battleground states. He concludes that hundreds of thousands of votes that were cast for President Trump in the 2020 general election were transferred to former Vice President Biden. And then below it says, Russell Ramsland confirms that data breaches in the Dominion software permitted rogue actors to penetrate and manipulate the software during the recent general election. He further concludes that at least 96,600 mail-in ballots were illegally counted as they were not cast by legal voters. Well, that would definitely change the outcome of the election in Georgia. Biden's still only up by about 12,000 in Georgia. Insecure voting machines. In Floyd County, 3,300 votes found on a memory stick that had never been counted. It is unclear how many other times this occurred. And then it says something here. The design and features of the Dominion software do not permit a simple audit to reveal its misallocation, redistribution, or deletion of votes. First, the system's central accumulator does not include a protected real-time audit log that maintains the date and time stamps of all significant election events. Well, with the software costing $100 million for Georgia to put it in, you would think they could have come up with a real-time audit log. And also the second accusation against Dominion here, it says the Dominion system undermines the reconciliation of the number of voters and the number of ballots cast, opening the door to ballot stuffing and fraud. And that would also be something that would be simple for Dominion to add to the machines. I mean, it's easy to correlate the number of voters to the number of ballots cast. The collapse of reconciliation was seen in Georgia's primary and runoff elections this year and in the November elections, where it was discovered during the hand audit that 3,300 votes were found on memory sticks that were not uploaded on election night. Plus, in Floyd County, another 2,600 absentee ballots had not been scanned. These found votes reduced Biden's lead over Trump. Okay, just a couple more of these. These are all focused on illegal ballots, traditional way of conducting voter fraud. Democrat majority counties performed virtually no signature verification, allowing massive illegal vote dumps for Biden. In Georgia, the signature verification requirement is a dead letter. The signature rejection rate for the most recent election announced by the Secretary of State was 0.15%. My voice is going here. The signature rejection rate for absentee ballot application was 0.00167%, only 30 statewide. Hancock County, Georgia, population 8,348, rejected 9 absentee ballot applications for signature mismatch, and Fulton County rejected 8. So that's just incredible too, that there were only 30 absentee ballot application rejections in the entire state. And 17 of those rejections happened in just 2 counties. No other metropolitan county in Georgia rejected even a single absentee ballot application for signature mismatch. So it appears that they're just not matching up the signatures. They just decided not to do that. Hundreds of witnesses observed illegal handling of ballots, even with restricted access to view counting. Quote, I witnessed 2 poll workers removing already separated paper machines in receipt ballots with barcodes in the Trump tray, placing them into the Biden tray. I also witnessed the same 2 poll workers putting the already separated paper receipt ballots in the no vote and Jorgensen tray, removing them and putting them inside the Biden tray. They then took out all of the ballots out of the Biden tray and stacked them on the table, writing on the count ballot sheet. So they were just shifting the votes there, just through those poll workers. So that's a summary of the vote fraud allegations. And the complaint concludes in this way. It says plaintiffs have no adequate remedy at law and will suffer serious and irreparable harm unless the injunctive relief requested herein is granted. Defendants have acted and unless enjoined will act under color of state law to violate the elections clauses of the Constitution. Accordingly, the results for president and Congress in the November 3rd, 2020 election must be set aside. The results are infected with constitutional violations. And the defendants, again, are Governor Kemp, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and the Georgia Board of Elections. And the plaintiffs, I didn't recognize any of the names. They must be citizens of the state of Georgia. I didn't see Sidney Powell's name on as a plaintiff, so she's just filing on behalf of these plaintiffs. So that's all I've got for you all today. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.